Hi, this is Mr. Zachary. This is question 17. Had to create a Google sheet, gravitational, kinetic energy, and velocity at each point. So I went ahead and did that. I also, let's see if I can move this down a little bit. I also created a place for the mass of it, and I did a total energy column. Because nothing interferes, it's frictionless. Whatever the total energy is at one point should be the total energy at all the points. So, looking back here, I know that the height of this is 3 meters. I know that the mass of it at point A, 3 kilograms, and it says it's released from rest. So, looking at that, the height of it, I can do the gravitational potential energy by taking the mass times 10 times the height, and that gives me 90 joules. It starts from rest, so that's 0 joules. Starts from rest, so kinetic energy is 0. So the total energy has to be 90. If I know the total energy in one place, I know the total energy in all the places. So I dragged that down and said that all of the different places had an energy of 90. So if that's the case, then the kinetic energy is going to be just the total energy minus the gravitational, because there's no spring, so all of the rest of it must be kinetic. So 60 there, 90 there, because there's no gravitational at C, 60 again, and then from that I could do, it took a little bit of algebra to do this, but I could take the square root of the kinetic energy times 2 divided by the mass, and I get the velocity, or the speed out from it. Now, what's interesting is a couple things. Notice that B and D have the same velocities, as do C and E. That if you have the same height, that means that you would, have the same gravitational potential energy. Then you're also going to have the same kinetic energy, which means you're also going to have the same speed. And that where the gravitational is the least, kinetic is the most, and so the speed is the most. What's also interesting is at F, we get to this point where the gravitational is 90, so the kinetic has to be 0, kinetic energy. Which means it's not moving anymore, which means it's not going to go past that point on this. It kind of has to come up to G and then stop, which means it never will reach H or I, which we get that the total energy, if the total energy is 90, then we have negative kinetic energy, which doesn't make any sense. That, because the velocity squared can't happen. And our speed becomes this, like, the computer can't take it, and it says it's an error. How could it reach that point? I guess if you had started it with a kinetic energy of at least 30 joules, which would have been a speed of something, I don't know off the top of my head, then the total energy would have been 120, and so would have been enough to get you up here, where the gravitational potential energy is. But isn't in this case, and so there you go.